These are 6 everyday items that I spent about 30 minutes enhancing and sold for a little under 500 million mesos. In this video, I'll show you how I pulled that off. To start off, let's look at something called reveal cost. The reveal cost of an item is the meso you have to pay every time you reveal an item's potential, including when you reset its potential using a cube. There are 2 factors that determine an item's reveal cost. Number 1 is the item's level. This is because there's actually an exact formula that determines reveal cost, which goes reveal cost equals equipment level squared multiplied by C, where C is a constant that is equal to 0 if the item is level 30 or lower, 0.5 if it's 31 to 70, 2.5 if it's 71 to 120, and then 20 if the item is 121 or higher. This formula applies to all items and all cubes. The second factor that determines an item's reveal cost is your character's insight trait. If you have level 100 or maxed insight, then the reveal cost for items up to level 120 are reduced to 0. So in other words, if you have maxed insight, then instead of the original formula we just went over, the formula will now look like this. Even if you forget the details of this formula, the main thing I help you remember is this. Level 120 and below, cheap. Level 121 and above, expensive. And not just slightly more expensive, but 800% more expensive. So what, you might be thinking? Aren't most of the best items in this game well above level 120? Well, yes, but there are still ways we can use the reveal cost formula to our advantage. For one, bear in mind that there is still a need for non-best in slot items, both among early to mid-game players as well as more advanced players looking to gear up their Legion, Link, or secondary characters. Here's where the boss accessories come into play. A good boss set can easily carry you through level 220 or even higher, and it's a great set to use before you transition to Golics and Sweetwater. We'll start with this Magnus Shoulder. Because this item is level 120, I can just spam occult cubes on it until it tears up to epic at little to no cost. I got lucky with the shoulder and it tiered up in just 28 cubes. From there, I cube until I hit 9% of any stat, in this case, luck. Then, I 70% traced it and starforced it to 10 stars. In total, the shoulder took 28 cubes to tier up and 3 more to hit 2 lines of stat. With max insight, the reveal cost for 31 cubes is 0 mesos. With non-max insight, it would be about 1.1 mil. Starforcing it to 10 stars cost me about 5 mil for a total cost of about 5 to 6 mil. I was then able to sell it for about 40 mil. As a side note, I'm not including the cost of the occult cubes, spell traces, pot scrolls, or stance I'm used for these items, since there's so many ways of getting those without spending any meso. If for whatever reason you must buy those items, however, you'll have to factor that into the cost as well. I repeated the same process with this Horntail ring, which then sold for 50 mil. Next up, I'm going to work on these eye and face accessories from Zagum. This is a little more complicated because both these items already have flames, so rather than just cubing for 2 lines of any stat, I'm going to have to cube for luck and strength specifically. This is what I call Rubik's cubing, because you have to try to get all the parts to match. But the idea is the same as before, since both of these items are below level 120. I'm going to show the process again with some cuts, just to prove I'm not doing anything besides clicking and holding enter. Spamming occult is a very boring process, so I recommend playing in window mode and watching or doing something else while you do it. Here's the finished result, which sold for about 100 mil. And this is the face accessory. This thing took over 300 cubes to get what I needed, which is on the unlucky side, but that's just how it is sometimes. This also sold for about 100 mil. This last pair of items will be a little different because I'm going to use the transfer hammer. If you're not familiar with the transfer hammer, I won't go into too much detail here because there are other guides explaining it that you can find for yourself. Essentially though, just know that the transfer hammer allows you to transfer the potential up to epic tier and the star force -1 star of a lower level item to a higher level one. Here, the transfer hammer is going to help in 2 ways. First, it helps me to save money on reveal cost by letting me cube a lower level item. Second, it's going to help me avoid having to Rubik's cube because I can work on the final product potential separately from its flame. I'll start by buying a pair of clean level 120 cracked Golics earrings from the auction house. You can also just loot these from Golics for free, but I just didn't have any this day. Now it's business as usual, but we'll stop as soon as they break 2 lines of any stat. In this case, it's going to be strength. Next, I'm going to look through a storage meal for a pair of Horntail earrings with a nice strength flame. Now I just trace the horntail earrings and then transfer the Galax earrings onto them, and I'm finished. This item took 269 cubes to make, so with unmaxed insight, that would be a total reveal cost of 9.7 million mesos. That's kind of a lot, but to drive the point of this video home, if I'd cubed the level 130 earrings directly instead of using the transfer hammer, I would have had to pay almost 10 times that, so keep that in mind. These earrings sold for about 100 mil. I repeated the same process on a level 120 cracked Galax belt, which I then transferred to a level 130 solid Galax belt, and finally to a level 140 pink bead belt. This sold for about 100 mil. And there you have it. That's how I made almost 500 million with about 30 minutes of work. Now obviously, I can't guarantee that everyone can replicate what I've done here exactly. You may not have all the advantages I do on my account, plus prices for items can vary from server to server, and even in the same server they can change day to day. Your mileage may vary, but at the very least, I hope this video has given you some ideas on how you can use the reveal cost formula to your advantage. Till next time.